Okay, let's get the ball rolling then.
Just in time.
This will be a virtual meeting of the Marinwood CSD Board of Directors. There will not be a public location for participating in this meeting. Any interested member of the public can participate telephonically or via internet by utilizing the web link or dial-in information printed on this agenda. At points in the meeting, when the meeting chair requests public comment, members of the public participating in the live meeting, either via internet or telephone, shall indicate their desire to speak. If participating via internet, please click the raise hand feature located within the Zoom application screen. If connected via telephone, please dial *9. Now that that's out of the way, let's call roll call.
Board President Shea,
Here.
Director Case,
Here.
thank you. Director Kilkenny,
Here.
Director Oiserman,
Here.
Director Ruggieri.
Here.
Thanks.
Okay, does anybody have any changes for the agenda? So in that case, let's adopt the agenda as is. And the first thing coming up is our it appears to be a monthly housekeeping feature given to us by our legislators in Sacramento. So we have resolution 2021-10, making findings and confirming the need to continue conducting remote meetings via teleconference of the Board of Directors, Fire Commission, and Park and Recreation Commission. We need to approve this. Do I hear a motion?
I motion to approve the resolution number 2021-10, making the findings confirming our need to continue conducting remote meetings via teleconference for the Board of Directors of CSD, the Fire Commission, and Parks and Recreation Commissions.
Second.
Cool. Any
Do I have to-
comments?
Was I supposed to say for the month of? Okay,
You're
sorry.
good. You're
Okay.
good.
Any comments? Do we have any public comments?
Yeah, 1 second, Bill.
Hello.
Yeah, Stephen.
Yeah, hi. Thanks. Thanks for letting me speak to this. I just wanted to say that I actually like the remote meetings. However, I'm questioning whether we really need to do it since our mask mandates off. You know, we're in one of the most vax counties in the country. I just question that. My concern is not for my participation. Quite frankly, I like sitting at home instead of going over there. But I do think you guys need to be accessible to people who have the need to speak to you in person. And you know, we're not a secret body here, we're a public body. So I do think there needs to be a public meeting or some way that the public can maybe even come in and sit next to Eric or something like that, so they can participate. Not everybody, some people are intimidated by Zoom, and I think you should take that into account. Anyhow, that's all I have to say.
Thanks, Stephen. Anybody else, Eric?
No, sir.
All righty, let's get a vote going.
Board President Shea,
Aye.
Director Case,
Aye.
Director Kilkenny,
Aye.
Director Oiserman,
Aye.
and Director Ruggieri.
Aye.
Cool. Thank you. Up next is a consent calendar. We have to approve the draft minutes of the regular meeting of October 12th and the bills paid. Any questions? I'm hearing none. Any questions from the public?
Yes, sir. 1 second, please. Stephen.
Hello? Oh, there we
Yeah,
go.
go ahead, Stephen.
Yes, actually, this is from the minutes from the last meeting. As you know, I wasn't there. You had a record short meeting. I'm sure you guys were all thrilled about that. But I was fine. There was no problem. But I did have a question because last month you did make a payment to Bill Hansel for about 13,000, I guess 13,500. I forget how much it was, but it just so happens that was a portion of the bill, and the entire amount that it was estimated by our general manager that Bill Hansel's services have cost. So now we're way beyond that initial estimate, where everything is just blown through the roof as far as budget on that project. And I just want to bring that to attention. I did watch the tape. None of you question it. And well, actually, no, I should take that back. Bill questioned it. But I do think at least we should be hearing from our general manager what's going on as far as the financial performance and the objectives he initially set out for our community for this project. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Anybody else, Eric?
No, sir.
All right, I need a motion and a second. Anybody?
I move to approve the consent calendar, including the draft minutes of regular meeting of October 12th, 2021, and bills paid numbers 55846 to 5906.
Second.
Thank you. How about a vote, Tiff?
For
Penny?
President Shea,
Aye.
Director Case,
Aye.
Director Kilkenny,
Aye.
Director Oyserman,
Aye.
and Director Ruggieri.
Aye.
Thanks.
Thank you. Next is public comment, open time not on the agenda. Do I have any public comments?
Yes, one second, Bill. Stephen.
Yes, so is a question for each one of you. Why are you serving on the board? Hopefully it's because you have a positive vision for our community. We have great examples in our community. Chris's dad is one of those people in our community that shaped what Marinwood is today. The people that bought open space shaped what Marinwood is today. The people that voted on the pool and the rec programs were the ones that helped shape the vision for our community. And we have a lovely community. We all love our community. But what's your vision? I have been an observer and participant in these meetings for a long time. And while you've heard a lot of criticism I have of staff, it really is not so much the staff, it's really the board who I critique, because as members of the board, you're not on the board of directors for a corporation. You set the vision, you set the path, you hold our staff accountable to those goals. And too often I think people want to get along and they just listen to the staff. And there's a lack of rigor on, hey, how are we doing towards our goals? I hardly ever hear that. We hardly ever get written reports from our staff. A lot of verbal reports, a lot of what I would call boilerplate reports, but in terms of analysis and growth towards a goal, I really think the board can do a better job of holding our staff accountable. So we're going to be talking about profit and loss. That's a marker, but there are other goals as well for our community, and I hope you find ways to actualize the vision that motivates you for our community. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Anybody else? Eric?
No, sir.
Okie dokie, on to district matters. Fiscal year 2021-22, first quarter, P&L. Eric?
Yeah, sure. I gave you guys a detailed report in here, written report. So to go over it really quickly, and I'm not going to read it line for line, but in looking at it, in reviewing what this report is, and I'm pretty sure everybody remembers these from last fiscal year as well. This is simply a report comparing our current revenues and expenditures to what was set at budget level, budget was approved last May. I do, certainly want to point out and kind of go over that even though the year is 25% over, that certainly does not mean that we should be at or near the 25% mark for each of these line items. In fact, for the vast majority of them, we are not, especially due to the seasonality of the business that we're in, and everything else, as well as our revenues. So we have reviewed Q1 financials. They do fall in line with what we expected them to be at this point in time, and in some places have actually exceeded our expectations on the revenue side. So we feel good about that. As always, primary cost drivers in a service-based agency such as ours, or staff wages and benefits, as well as a lot of annual one-time payments that we tend to make at the beginning of the fiscal year. These include our insurance payments, our unfunded accrued liability payment into pension, as well as some of our other memberships and dues that always get paid one time towards the beginning of the year. As of October 31st, the cash balance is stated in here in our general treasury fund is approximately 4.07 million. However, it should be noted, and I included in my written report here, that restricted funds do make up 727,000 of that 4.07 million. Those restricted funds are approximately 107,000 designated for the Marin Wildfire Prevention Authority that we are participating agency in, as well as the $620,000 construction loan that we took out for the maintenance facility. After you factor all that in, our cash balance is actually at about unrestricted 3.34 million. This is actually an increase of about $830,000 from this same point in time last year. So even with pandemic and reduced programming and services, we are still maintaining a good level of revenue over expenditure, which is exactly what that represents. Also gave you a couple other quick notes from more of a balance sheet perspective as of September 30th, otherwise, quarter end. Our OPEB trust fund had a balance of just under $470,000 in it, which is really good considering we just started that in fiscal year 17-18, and we have contributed $385,000 in cash holdings into that trust and realized just under $84,000 in interest earnings in that. So, or I should say investment earnings, sorry. Looking forward to quarter two, that's when we start to realize a lot of our tax revenues, 55% of our general property ad valorem taxes start to be allocated into our fund, as well as 55% of our special taxes. And again, just to reiterate, we've certainly analyzed and went through these, sat down, made sure we didn't have any significant concerns, which we do not. We're trending right where we expected to be trending. That said, we'll continue to keep a diligent eye and watch on the financials as we move through the fiscal year. Any questions? I am happy to answer them. I did leave a page at the end of the report that kind of goes over some significant items of note in terms of any summary or variance notes.
Right. No, Eric, what I saw, what I'm curious about is the overtime pay for the fire department. We
Sure.
have 116 paid out already and just 100 for budget. Is that just for the quarter? The
That is-
100,000 budget?
That is no, the 100,000 is kind of just a benchmark that we've always put in there. It really
Okay.
probably should go up in future years because we exceed it pretty good. A couple
Mhm.
things to keep in mind on that, though. That does include a strike assignment that we went out on for a full 2 weeks with one of our people and all the backfill. And we've also had a long-term industrial injury that we've had to backfill for
Yeah.
as well. So naturally, overtime is a little bit higher than it would trend normally. Obviously, the strike team assignment is reimbursable. That usually doesn't happen until towards the end of the fiscal year. But with the industrial injury that has been ongoing now, that means every third shift,
Yeah, I get it.
every 6 days, 2 of those days have to be filled with an overtime. Plus, then you also have people that are out sick or on vacation or whatever the case may be, and all that gets
I got
backfilled
it.
with OT as well.
Okay. That's all I had. It stuck out for some reason. Anybody else? Hearing nothing. Anything from the public?
Sure, 1 second, please. Stephen.
Yes, it's great to receive these P&L statements, Eric, and I think that's something that I don't know if I think you might have introduced it, but anyhow, it is helpful. And when I'm talking about measurable results, this is the kind of stuff that I think is important. But it's actually meaningless unless it's placed against the backdrop of the goals for the district. For example, I guess we're going to talk about it later, the pool revenues, but how well are we serving the public? What sectors of the public are we serving? How many of the people that come through our camps, use our facilities, how many of them are actual taxpayers or residents of the district? We don't really get that information. If you have goals, directors, such as improving our parks and open space and play structures and rec departments, et cetera, how are these P&L statements? What are they telling you about achieving those goals? We don't know, because that's not something that the board spends time with, but I urge you to spend time with that, because you're creating the Marinwood CSD of tomorrow. It's you. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Anybody else, Eric?
No.
Okay. On to more housekeeping. We need to approve resolution 2021-11. Fixing the employer contribution for employees and annuitants under the Public Employees Medical and Hospital Care Act.
Sure. Yep, this is an annual item. So we have policy in place that states that the district will pay set percentages of the Kaiser premium Our healthcare is provided through CalPERS, through the Public Employees Medical and Hospital Care Act. They set the rates that are effective every January for the upcoming calendar year. When those change, we need to change our employer contributions that again go within the percentages of the Kaiser premium for our region. This simply sets that so it maintains our employer contributions at those same set percentages for both the miscellaneous classification and the safety classification. This does apply to both retirees as well as active employees and would become effective January 1st.
And we do this every single year.
Every year they change the rate. You are
Yep.
correct. There was one year that they didn't change the rate, so we didn't have to do it, but that was
Okay.
for a different reason.
All right. Any questions? Hearing nothing.
I have one.
Okay.
For the
Yeah.
benefits? Or do they pay a portion?
I'm sorry.
Do we cover their benefits or do they pay a portion?
I'm sorry. Who is they?
The employees?
Oh, yeah. They all pay a portion. So,
Okay.
yeah, they pay a portion. The district covers 90% of the premium for miscellaneous employees and 80% of the premium.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Just confirming, it's always been that way, right?
Correct. As long as I've been here.
Anything from the public?
I do not have any raised hands right now, Bill.
All right. I need a motion and a second.
I'll motion to approve the resolution number 2021-11, fixing the employer contribution under the Public Employees Medical and Hospital Care Act at equitable amounts, or at an equal amount for employees and annuities.
I will second that.
Awesome. Tiffany?
Board President Shay,
Aye.
Director Case,
Aye.
Director Kilkenny,
Aye.
Director Oysterman,
Aye.
Director Ruggieri.
Aye.
Thanks.
And on to the, thank you. On to the district manager's report.
Good, thanks, Bill. I'm going to take these kind of out of order from what I have in there. A very quick update just on the Miller Creek trail going along the waterway that we discussed a couple of meetings ago. I do have an agreement in place with a local, not local, but a semi-local trail design professional. We've worked with this individual in the past. He's done a lot of work with the open space district. I am hoping to, he's hoping to actually be able to do some field work this week, weather and allowing, and hopefully by late November, early December, we have an initial kind of feasibility study from him, looking at his professional opinion on putting a trail in the select area. Again, that area is running along Miller Creek Waterway, from Las Colinas Road across from where the mini park is located all the way down to what eventually will be a new roadway leading to the proposed senior facility. So once I am able to get that report and we are able to have that finalized, we'll bring that back in front of the board for further discussion. There was a request last month for some updates on the park maintenance facility. So I tried to give you some detail on the progress there. Everything is still moving. The one note right now is our lead time has been pushed out pretty far on the windows that we need. So that is pushing it back, but our builder is able to adjust accordingly, and he's been very good with that. Haven't lost any time really due to the weather. And I did try to include some pictures on the following page, just kind of showing everybody what the progress was and the dates of those. So hopefully those came through and can be seen good. I will say they finished up all of the plywood roofing already, and we're able to tarp it before this latest rain. But again, they're not, the rain hasn't really been pushing them back or slowing progress all that much. They're able to shift to other items. And then finally, just a update on some of our fire prevention, vegetation management work that is happening. We've actually got the work started. All of the environmental work had been completed. And as of last week, we have an excellent crew that is out there doing this work. I did want to do a brief screen share just so everybody can kind of take a understand where we are working at right now. Get rid of this. If you notice, this is the whole area. This is Idleberry Road, kind of running all the way down here to Miller Creek Road. That comes this way, and then this is where Queenstone Fire Road comes in. So all of the area highlighted in yellow within 100-foot zone of what's known as the Wildland Urban Interface is where they are doing the work, removing down and dead trees and foliage, raising the canopy, and doing some slight limbing through there. Primarily exactly in these pockets. It's just under 11 acres worth of work. Again, my sincere appreciation to Kate Anderson, who is a vegetation management specialist with San Rafael Fire Department, who really has led this charge and helped out a lot with getting everything done and getting it moving. They expect all of this work to take about 3 to 4 weeks in total to be completed. And again, that's kind of weather allowing on some of it as well. I was actually out there yesterday in some of the parts that they've completed. It looks very good. It's very, very clean. And you wouldn't even really know that they were there except on how much more improved the entire area is starting to look. So we've been getting some nice feedback from a lot of the residents that live in some of these areas too. So they are continuing to work, continuing to push through. And like I said, we expect that to be done in about 3 to 4 weeks total time.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and that's all funded through allocations we received directly from the Marin Wildfire Prevention Authority.
That's it.
I think Savon has a question.
I don't think I'm allowed to ask questions today.
Sorry.
I just want to make sure that I wasn't interrupting you. So the reason that it's like kind of patchy on the Idleberry side is just that there's portions that have already been taken care of and they see nothing else to do versus the continuous one near Queenstone. I'm just assuming that that's what it is, and I just want to confirm.
No,
Because you had like the little circle.
The reason it's patchy here is actually we were just trying to get a better scope on the total area. If you notice, and I can kind of try to zoom this in a little bit for you. It's patchy here because this is where the vegetation is. These other areas are mostly just, kind of grassland through here, but this is where all the trees, and this is the work that they're doing now. The grassland, we actually accomplish through the goat grazing.
Yeah.
And that's what brings most of that down. So this is just really focusing on the woody areas that are.
Yeah, we did that. And we did that just recently too, so.
Yeah, and this area is, well, very woody. So, and hasn't been done for many years. In fact, I don't know that we've ever taken on a project quite of this scope in that area. So this is all really good stuff.
Super exciting.
Hey, Eric, do you know, like I just, because of the way my day travels, like going back the east, like toward Miller Creek School, there's the hill. Is this ever part of the plan to get in and mitigate some of that vegetation in the central part of Marinwood as well?
It's a plan eventually for down the line. I mean, this funding is going to carry us for the next 9 more years. Right now, we're really focusing on the much higher priority areas, and in that area, it'd be much more of a shaded fuel break. So much of that is kind of a northern exposure. There's a large portion of that hill that we don't own.
Okay.
And one of the other areas, and this isn't all total what we're going to do this year. In the early spring, I know San Rafael is hoping to bring in some more AmeriCorps crews, and we're hoping to get them out to be able to do some, basic broom pulling and things. There's that kind of more meadowy area closer to Las Colinas on the eastern side of that hill that kind of runs parallel to Las Colinas all the way down to Ellen Court.
Right.
That's one of the areas that we were looking at. We were also looking at the area that surrounds Elvia Court. But unfortunately with that, when they broke ground and started all that construction, our primary access got taken away. So we're going to have real access challenges to that area. So we might be pushing that area until they're done with the residential development that is happening, because that residential development does absolutely include a access easement at the end of the road that they're going to be putting in to get into the open space there.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
My pleasure.
And just connecting to the follow-up on the construction, I really appreciate that as well. I know that was kind of my ask from last month, and it looks great. Everything to me looks like it's going along as well as we could possibly hope.
Good. I'm glad you appreciate it. Thank you.
Any more comments? Anything from? the
One
public?
question.
Oh,
When there's a delay in, let's say there's a delay in Windows,
Mhm.
if there's a change in it, do they go to Bill and do we pay Bill for that consulting a change?
No, that's not a change. I mean, when change orders do come up, sure, it is certainly something that is discussed amongst myself, the builder and the architect.
Mhm.
The windows is actually a supply chain issue. This isn't a change order. It's
Okay.
just a matter of materials and being able to get them in. There's a lot of supply chain challenges kind of happening right now for 1,000 different types of products and materials. But yes, when we have other types of change orders, sure, they need to be approved by our architect.
And so we're billed by that. There's no like package that or contract that
No,
covers.
this contract is a time and materials contract,
All right,
not,
thank
not
you.
a percentage. Other ones tend to be percentages of total construction cost.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
anybody else? And then how about the public? Do they have any comments?
Sure, 1 second, Bill.
Hi. So I'll go through this quickly. First, with regards to the Miller Creek Trail feasibility report, I'm not quite sure why we need to spend $4,500 to have someone tell us that it's infeasible, too expensive. And besides of which, our staff has already indicated that they don't have the expertise and interest in maintaining a trail. The question I really want to understand is, we have thousands of trails throughout Marin and I don't know, maybe hundreds in our open space. Maybe that's an exaggeration, but we have lots. And I don't believe any of them required the studies and engineering and CEQA and all kinds of complications that were introduced as reasons why we can't get this project done. I urge the board to hold a vision for a future that includes a Miller Creek Trail throughout our district. I think that is something that could be generational in impact. It doesn't have to be complicated. We could probably get Boy Scouts and volunteers to create much of it, but we need to understand the legalities of it. On to the maintenance facility. You know, in my professional life, whenever you had a complicated project such as this, you would have a project manager who could produce detailed reports on goals, mini goals, and performance. And what you're receiving here is really, I mean, I honestly, it's so vague that it really makes me concerned that we're going to have huge cost overruns. It doesn't show to me that that we're on schedule, that we're on budget, that the quality is what we want. It's just, you know, it's just a silly overview. And so I do ask that you hold this project accountable. This is going to be your legacy project too. And if it gets screwed up, it's unfortunately going to be your legacy. So I think each of you has an interest. The vegetation management, I haven't been up to see that area. I certainly hope that it's being done with great sensitivity. It sounds like they were working towards that. And I would be interested, I'm also interested in the erosion that may be created as a result of removal of all the brush, but I guess we'll have to wait and see on that. But anyhow, I appreciate the report, and that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Stephen. Thank you, Eric. Appreciate it. On to fire department matters. Draft minutes of the fire commission meeting we're going to review. Any questions?
Hey, Bill, if I could just jump in, I know we discussed this briefly at the last meeting, but one of the things we discussed moving forward was having the board liaisons who do attend all of the fire commission meetings as representatives of the board to just kind of come in and have their comments regarding the respective meetings. I know Kathleen Kilkenny is the liaison to the fire commission, attends all the meetings, represents the board in the meetings. So if you wouldn't mind if we wanted to start that this month.
Sure.
Thank you, Eric. I appreciate it.
So let me just start by saying I have the easier part. Sorry, Lisa, because there's a whole report to follow up just in case I forgot something to announce to you guys. But the one thing that I do just want to announce is that our fire commission was really appreciative of our inspectors going around to all our properties and inspecting the property. And there was a lot of residents that started really pulling out their juniper berry bushes and other bushes that could easily, spark and burst more flames. And they're just, our community's showing that they're really understanding the importance of these inspectors and their recommendations. I also announced, and they are in agreement with us to stay remote. They like it as well. So I said, as long as the board decides to stay remote, they will stay remote, which we agreed to at the beginning of this meeting. And then the other thing that we discussed was how long it took the review time for the apparatus, I love saying that, to go all the way along the ridge. And that was actually quite interesting, but I'm not going to go into it too much because it's in his report as well. So, but yeah, that's about it.
All right.
Else I missed, Chief White has. So, but thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Questions from the public?
Yeah, 1 second, Bill. Steven.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead, Stephen.
Yeah. So appreciate the report. I appreciate the anecdotal report from Kathleen. I understand a lot of things get discussed in the fire commission, and since they spend half of our budget or more and represent a long-term financial liability to the public, I do think we need better record keeping. Now, I know Eric is, feels that the current form, bare bones form, is adequate. I think there could be a compromise here. All he has, since we're recording all these meetings anyhow, all he has to do is save these video meetings and publish them up on YouTube. And that will provide us with some kind of record should we need to review what has gone on in the past. And why not? I mean, we are a public agency. Why shouldn't there be access when we have the tools and technology to do so? Very easy. Anyhow, but that would be something that the board needs to decide. Do you want an accountable Marinwood CSD and fire department or not? I mean, if you do, you need to have some way to record what's going on. And while Kathleen, I mean no disrespect to Kathleen. I know she gave her report as best she could. It's really just her interpretation of what went on. There might be things that she left out. There might be more that should be discussed, but we're not going to hear it unless there's a record. And why not have a record? So that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Stephen.
I add one thing, just to comment on that. The other reason why we added this was so the board, all board members, as the fire representative, could say, hey, Kathleen, can you bring up this? And go back to our commission and ask them the question. The other thing that I do want to add is I do follow up with Eric after our meetings on a few things that our fire commission brings up as well. So there is accountability in many of our commission meetings. And I feel a little offended right now by you saying that our board is not holding our staff accountable. So I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathleen.
Thank you.
I guess that'll take care of that. The appointment of fire commissioners for the term beginning January 1st, 2022. Looks like we have a couple of appointments.
Yeah, we do. One of them is a reappointment and another one is a member of the community who is requesting to be appointed for the first time. The one thing I do want to point out, two items actually with this is, first off, the reappointment on the fire commission would be for a 2-year term. These are terms typically last from January through following December of 2 years later. And they are staggered based on the number of seats. So you do, roughly half the seats 1 year, roughly half the seats the other year. The other is actually a vacant seat that has been vacant for almost a year now that would be filled. If you look at my recommendation here, what this would do would be to reappoint Commissioner Pascal Carcenti to a 2-year term in his seat effective January 1st. And then, excuse me, to appoint a gentleman named John Surratt, who is applying and interested to serve. John, as you see in his letter, has a lot of history with the volunteer fire department and the Marinwood Fire Department as well. And he would be filling the vacant seat that could actually be filled effective immediately with a term that would end in December of 2022, at which point he could always reapply for a full 2-year seat.
Right.
Yeah,
How do we
and
go
with
about-
this, if both these people are appointed, I would also like to point out that all regular seats would be filled. We would have a vacancy in the alternate seat, but we haven't had the seats all filled in either commission actually for a little while now. So this is nice to have some community.
How do we go about doing the appointment?
I would look for a motion to basically what I typed out there at the bottom under staff recommendation. Yeah, and you don't need to talk about leaving the alternate commission seat vacant.
Okay, so a motion to direct staff recommendation.
Sure, or just read it out. To appoint Pascal Carcenti to a regular seat on the fire commission for a 2-year term expiring December 2023. And to appoint John Surratt to the currently vacant regular seat on the fire commission effective immediately with a term expiring December 2022.
You got that, Bill?
Shall we?
All right, I'll second that.
Okay, well, I can't
Okay,
actually make the
all right.
motion. So
Well, I didn't know if Bill was starting the motion and you were reading the rest of it for him, if he was unable to do that reading part. But I motion to reappoint Pascal Carcenti to the regular seat on the Fire Commission for a 2-year term expiring December 2023 and appoint John Surratt to the current vacancy regular seat on the Fire Commission effective immediately with the term expiring December 2022 and leaving the alternate commissioner seat vacant.
I'll second.
Yay. Do we have any comments?
yeah, 1 second. Are you looking for the board or for public?
Well, I'm assuming the board is going to be okay with these appointments?
I would just thank these people. I appreciate what they're doing, and it's nice to have people that both seem to have community interest and also some background in this area. I think we're really lucky.
Well, and John's been associated for a really long time as the alternate, correct, Eric?
John Surratt? No, he has
No.
never been.
No, okay. Sorry. Never mind.
Okay.
Strike that from record, please.
But I agree with Chris. It's nice when people step up and are willing to help and want to be involved, and the commissions are a good way to do that on a low pressure
Sure,
environment. And these serve as advisory bodies to the board as well as to staff, and they are certainly valuable to have. And we appreciate them. So I appreciate Chris's sentiment there. Thank you.
Any comments from the public?
Yeah, 1 second, Bill.
Well, yes, the first thing I'd like to do is apologize to Kathleen. I think she misunderstood me. I wasn't referring to how she deals with the staff regarding the fire department. Really what I was talking about is, how is this information getting out to the public? These board members, you're going to also do the park board members. The public doesn't know who these people are, what they're saying, or how their community is being managed. And really what I'm asking you to do is to represent the public. I'm asking the board now to represent the public and make sure that, we know what's going on. I assume all these people are good at what they do. But we all always get secondhand information, and the bare bones report. So we really don't know what's going on. And hey, they might be doing a great job, and so it should be a good thing to know what they're doing. I just think that the board really needs to ask themselves, what is the purpose of serving? What is, hopefully it's to create a better Marinwood and a safe district, a fire safe district. And but we really don't know. Now I'm the chief is about ready to speak, and I have some questions concerning some reports that I had expected from him. But I honestly, I think the board is falling down. I would like to know who these people are. I'd like to see their faces on our webpage. I'd like to see these meetings published. Why not? What is the point of keeping them quiet? If they're doing a good job, they should feel proud of their work, and you should feel proud of backing them up. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. Tiffany, can we have a vote, please?
Sure thing. Board President Shea,
Aye.
Director Case,
Aye.
Director Kilkenny,
Aye.
Director Oysterman,
Aye.
Director Ruggieri.
Aye.
Thanks.
Thank you all. Now, I'd like to welcome in Chief Darren White.
Well, good evening,
Chief's
directors.
report.
Good evening, District Manager Drekelson, and good evening, members of the public. It's a pleasure to be here with you tonight. And I'd like to just before I get started with my report, echo some of the comments from Director Case and showing just appreciation for all of you and as all of the commission members as well, who week after week, month after month are here demonstrating your commitment to the community, your commitment to public safety, and your willingness to give of yourself, your time, your energy, and your focus on those things that help the community. And so I can certainly appreciate that. While I'm not here on a voluntary basis, I do recognize that the time that you spend is valuable time. And I just wanted to share that appreciation if I hadn't done so in quite a while. So I also appreciate the fact that we have Mr. Surratt looking to step up and fill a role with some background and experience from within the community directly as well, and that's very encouraging. So with that, just wanted to open with those remarks and then move forward into my report, and then be more than happy to answer any questions from yourselves and or the public once I'm finished. This was a relatively light month in the way of activity, and so that's not necessarily a bad thing, but there were some notable things that occurred. So I'll start with the Marin Wildfire Prevention Authority and Director Brown acknowledging and reporting to various individuals throughout the county that MWPA staff truly recognize the magnitude of work and commitment now required to implement the MWPA, the vegetation and the risk reduction and all the projects and everything associated with that everybody's been absorbing with probably very little practice in their previous lives until this time. I think what we're doing here in Marin County is setting a example for other agencies and other counties and districts to emulate. And so with that, there's a lot of growing pains, but I think we're doing remarkable work, as others have indicated, despite the growing pains that we're experiencing, because there's been that same level of commitment that you're demonstrating from the individuals that have been hired to try to put these projects and work with the Environmental Quality Act and other requirements to make sure that these things are done responsibly, but basically are getting done sooner than later. And as we saw with the Lassen fire, which I'll speak on just briefly a little bit later, we've already talked about it last month, those projects really have drawn down risk already. And with that, that's something that very few communities I know of can really speak to. And so this is, I want to put it in context for everyone to understand that the work's already underway and the work's being done responsibly, and it's being done in a very thoughtful and prioritized manner. So we're very fortunate to have Kate Anderson and Quinn and other staff working with District Manager Drykerson, going out and really assessing the things that are happening within the community and what they consider to be the highest priority projects that need to get underway. And so this is exciting for me. I come from an organization that understood and understands the risk involved, and has not yet been quite able to put forward that effort on this scale. And so because of that, it's different and unique for me to be able to see and witness progress being made. Commitment of the community members and those that are working to try to draw down risk. And so although we have about 9 more years left before we have to renew this, I hope that what everyone will see and recognize is the immense value this has, so that it's a continuum for decades to come, and that other communities can see the same value we're experiencing here. To that end, prescribed fire has been used in some organizations, and in some instances it's been problematic because it may not have been used properly. And so there's going to be a conference coming up next week, or a panel discussion of sorts, where you're going to have subject matter experts from a variety of fields and speakers from throughout the state who have experiences, both good and bad, with the use of prescribed fire. And they're going to have hopefully some sort of how should we say, a white paper or something else coming out of this to help others understand how to do this responsibly. And we know that it's been used successfully in the past, and had been for a number of years, until maybe about the turn of last century, where it was suddenly decided that this was a barbaric way of treating the land and the vegetation, where maybe it's not necessarily barbaric, maybe it's being proactive and being thoughtful, so that you don't find yourself in a situation we now find ourselves in year after year. And so that, really looking forward to hearing about the conference and the outcomes from that conference. The MWPA website went live on October 19th, and all reports are, at least at this point, most folks have been pleased with how their interaction has been with the site. And so if you want to know about a project that's taking place in your community, you can go to the site, type in your city, your district, and address, and pull up some information and learn about the current sit stat on those projects. And I think that's huge, because now you're getting that information that some members of the public seem to be asking for, even on today's session. Where's the information? Well, the information's there, and it's already being provided, and there's not really a need to replicate what's already there and available for everyone's access. So I would encourage everyone to consider taking the opportunity to just type it in and take a look and see what it's going to yield. And I'm sure as time moves on, more information is going to be found and populated on that website, especially given the commitment they have to increasing their staffing to ensure great information is going out and good data is being input into the system. To that end, the annual report was released on the 21st of last month, and it's now located on the website. And from what we understand, that work plan that was submitted for 2021-2022 has been fairly well received, and this may be the model for future work plans, given how successful and how much praise it's actually receiving right now. So we're doing some of the right things and doing them in the right manner and at the right time. Moving on, COVID, a real big one right now. I'm going to try to push through this one. I know everyone's probably been glued to the television over the last few weeks as the CDC and the California Department of Public Health and others have decided on the fate of the Pfizer vaccine when it comes to vaccinating children ages 5 to 11. That supplements the effort already underway with the vaccination available for teens and preteens from ages 12 to 18. And so with that, I was in a rush to try to get my son the schedule, but I couldn't get it before I left town. I just got back in this morning. And unfortunately for me, I've got to figure out what I can do after this meeting to see if I can get him scheduled or even with a drop-in, perhaps sooner than later. He's 10 years old. My other children are a bit older, so they're not, they're not affected by this new decision per se.
Call your
with that-
pediatrician's office.
I'm sorry.
Call your pediatrician's office. That's what I did.
Yeah, well, nice going. You didn't waste any time. You went straight to the source. Well, he's actually got an appointment on Thursday morning. So I was thinking about right after that appointment, trying to see whether or not we could work something out. But I'm going to still take a look tonight. So that's great advice. Thank you. With that, I'm hearing that there may be somewhere in the neighborhood of 3.5 million children in the state of California who may qualify. The pharmacies, the pediatricians' offices, the HMOs, everyone has been ramping up their effort even prior to the announcement in anticipation of the availability of the vaccination. And from what I understand, in most instances, they're looking at a third of the size of a dose of an adult will be what's administered to the children ages 5 to 11. And this has been studied and vetted for quite some time now, and I think it's near 100% effective from what I understand. And so that's huge. That's amazing. Let's hope that there's no side effects or anything like the inflammation of the heart and other things that we've been reading about that happen in some rare cases. But that being said, the school districts are starting to become a bit more stringent about this. And some have already gone on record stating that they expect children to be vaccinated this month to be able to return to in-class, in-person school. And some are moving and pushing it further out to next August. They're expecting by next August, children will be able to come to school, whether it's grade school, middle school, or high school. You'll need to be vaccinated, or you're going to have to be a candidate for remote learning if it's offered in that school district. So stay tuned for that one. That's going to be a very contentious thing. I have a feeling, at least for some segment of the population moving forward. One of the real pushes right now, I think, is very timely. I was hoping it would happen at least sometime last month, if not sooner. They're really pushing to get this done because they anticipate the winter season being one of the normal seasons where we can anticipate more children being exposed to one another with flu and other germs being passed among them, especially when there's, how should we say, more of a tendency for people to be in close proximity to each other based on the weather, based on the time of year, based on it getting dark sooner, all of these other variables. And so with that, the timing is great. I would hope that we can get, everyone who's going to be vaccinated done before Christmas somehow. We're just getting down to the colder months, and this could be going on for the next couple of months easy. Booster shot, mix and match approval. That's another one that's also helpful in the fight to try to vaccinate as many people as possible. It's been now approved that if you've gotten the Johnson & Johnson, you're eligible to get the Pfizer or the Moderna vaccine. And likewise, if you've had Moderna or Pfizer, you're able to get a booster with one of the others. They said also that those who took the Johnson & Johnson should consider getting vaccinated with their second dose or booster shot with a second dose, sometimes as soon as I think 2 to 3 months after that first dose was issued. But They say that based on their suspicion that, or maybe some evidence that the potency starts to wane a little bit after the first several months on the Johnson and Johnson. So, because if you recall, that one was just a single dose vaccination early on. So we'll see what happens as we move forward with the mix and match strategy and how that plays out, and just how many people make themselves available to getting something else other than what they may have originally received. The Lassen fire, as Director Kilkenny mentioned earlier, we actually did just a brief walkthrough on some of the timelines on what it took to get from one location to another, by virtue of some questions that emanated from some of the commissioners. And so we actually provided a screenshot. If I think, Eric, are you able to pull that up? Nice.
Yeah, let me pull this 1 second.
So while he's doing that, I'll just explain that this was the Lassen fire area that consumed roughly 44 acres on September 1st. And if you think about it, Engine 58 was first on scene and got on scene under 6 minutes. And that was after being fully dressed and ready to respond. Captain John Papanikolaou was the first in-company officer on scene. He established command and made the correct initial size up and calls to summon additional resources, and then began a progressive hose lay on what we call the right flank of the fire. We'll call that the Zulu flank. You'll see it now outlined in red where the cursor arrow is. So the point of origin is back down low, close to structures which could have been threatened easily. They moved forward and started to flank that fire on the right side, where they thought things were, given wind conditions, pushing things rapidly in that direction. And then they established the left flank, which is the Bravo side of the fire. Given that, very steep terrain, as you can see, there's a lot of vegetation there. The need for additional resources became apparent immediately, given what they were exposed to and what they saw initially on scene. And so a lot of credit goes to Captain Papanikolaou and our crews for just taking and making the right decisions early on. I understand there was a little bit of frustration about, why so many other areas were under evacuation, but as I explained before, I'd much rather err on the side of being overly cautious than not cautious enough when it comes to an event such as a wildfire, because things can change rapidly for any number of reasons, whether it's the fuel, the wind direction, embers flying, different things that contribute to the situation changing suddenly. And so I just wanted to make that clear that although the initial evacuation was maybe a bit excessive, it was also an opportunity for individuals to practice evacuation, which we don't very much see a lot of opportunities to do that. And it was a practice with an actual incident as opposed to a simulation. So there's an element of realism there that you won't get if you're just doing a simulation. That being said, there's also the X-ray and mic points of the fire along the Queenstone Fire Road. And so one of the commissioners had the question last month about what exactly does it take how much time does it take for an individual to get from one point on the fire road to another? And that really depends on a lot of things. It depends on the condition of the fire road. It depends on whether or not there's debris, fallen trees, logs, anything else that could obstruct the type 3 or type 6 apparatus from moving freely in those areas. Fortunately for us, there's been excellent work done on ensuring those fire roads are in condition and ready to do exactly what they were intended to do on this fire, which was create opportunities for units to get placed and put in place, and to supplement the efforts of CAL FIRE, who brought in aerial units to really put a good knock on the fire and stop some of its forward progress. But if you take a look at the blue pins that are on the screen that is before you, you can see the travel times. And so I'm going to just run down the list of travel times for you at this point. And this is from moving west from Queenstone Fire Road Gate. So if you look at the first division X-ray, takes 8.5 minutes to get there from that Fire Road Gate. So moving west, 8 minutes, 30 seconds. 2 more minutes to get over to division Mike, which was at the upper top left of that parallelogram, if you can kind of call it that anyway. Intersection to Chicken Shack Fire Road. I don't know how that name got named, but it's quite a name. There must be a story behind that. I'd like to know it one day if someone could tell me, but I'm assuming there had to be a chicken shack somewhere in the neighborhood at some point there. But 15 minutes and 30 seconds, it's quite a haul. But if you look at the distance that you're traveling to get from Division Mike to Chicken Shack, that's 5 minutes. And it's actually not a bad amount of time considering the amount of distance you had to travel in very unusual and probably steep terrain as well. Moving forward west from there to Louise Fire Road, another nearly 6 minutes to get to that location. As I pointed out earlier, just below the word intersection next to intersection to Chicken Shack, there appears to be a significant dip in the road right there, that V, that I would think to some degree might be a harrowing dip for apparatus to traverse and then find themselves going back around. But again, I haven't been in that terrain, so I can't say, but it caught my attention as I look at this. First H Ranch Gate, another 2+ minutes to get to that next point. And that's a total of 23 minutes and 35 seconds versus 21 minutes and 20 seconds. Big Rock Towers, even further west with a lot more open space, or should we say less foliage right adjacent to the fire road, but still the terrain itself challenging enough that it's going to take almost 10 more minutes to get there. So this isn't stuff we can really take for granted. You know, if we had a fast moving fire in this area, the fire road may not be something that apparatus would want to actually, you know, try to do to get put in place there, just depending on whether or not they could be effective and whether or not there's, you know, structures being threatened or anything else that we think would really make sense for crews to be there, as opposed to putting aerial units at play, much like CAL FIRE had done. And then last but not least, past the Big Rock Towers, 33 minutes, and then 35 minutes to the second H Ranch Gate. And so if you look at that, that's quite a bit of a distance to travel. I can't give you the actual estimated, you know, miles per hour that they were traveling, but I can assume that they were trying to travel as fast as they could just to make it realistic. So that's a rough guesstimation there. Just wanted you to be aware of that. 2 weeks ago on Sunday, we had their first atmospheric river and bomb cyclone strike Marin County and cause a lot of flooding, a lot of fallen trees, down power lines, stranded motorists, some medical calls, some vehicle accidents, definitely some power outages, and a lot of calls for assistance. And so Engine 58, as an example, responded to 16 calls during the bomb cyclone event itself. Overall, I think just between San Rafael and Marinwood, there was roughly 130 calls when maybe there would have normally been about 30 calls during that same period of time. And so it just kind of shows you that that weather event really kind of put everything on notice for everyone about flooding and all the other things that I had been hearing about, but never had witnessed here on this side of the bay. So it's certainly something for us to take note of and be a little better prepared for as we move forward with sandbags and or situational awareness. Unfortunately, just prior to that incident,
Most of the calls were not specifically in the Marinwood area, right, Eric? We didn't have any severe flooding in the Marinwood areas, did we?
I can't tell you where most of the calls were, but no, we did not have any significant flooding in Marinwood. Sorry.
Is that true, Chief, that most of the calls weren't like,
yeah,
sorry.
there were vehicle accidents, some with injuries, some without.
Okay.
They assisted probably in other districts as those units were being pulled to respond to areas that, you know, they probably definitely did have flooding, as an example. So they were now being pulled in out of just Marinwood to supplement San Rafael, but also responding to calls in Marinwood as well. Yep. Yeah, the engine overheated a couple days before that, and unfortunately, fortunately, actually, they were able to use the Type 3 apparatus. But the mechanic that has been responsible for performing all the work on our San Rafael and Marinwood apparatus was hospitalized for a short period of time. And so I had already been in conversation with the Department of Public Works at San Rafael about trying to build some redundancy to ensure that we had more internal personnel capable of performing work other than just the sole individual that we've had for the last few years. And much to my surprise and joy, there are a couple individuals that are certainly interested in trying to take on that training and learn more about diesel engines, as well as working specifically on our apparatus. So the other plan behind that is it's functional, but not a sustainable plan. And that would have been to use Diego Truck Repair or maybe some other agency to come in and provide assistance. But that is, to me, that should be a secondary consideration, an alternate behind us having enough staff that can work on our stuff. So more effort, more information to come on that. We will have some more redundancy built in. So hopefully our apparatus won't find itself down and we're relying just on the Type 3, because the reality of it is if that Type 3 was deployed on a strike team, that would we would not have an option except to pull out another resource and put it in play from perhaps San Rafael or another agency. And so just don't want to see us get drawn down that far. And that's what I wanted to share with the group. Well, last but not least, after the storm, some of the crews drove up and down the fire road to assess its accessibility. Please, somebody try when we're done. I shouldn't have wrote it that way. Assess its accessibility. Wow, that's quite a mouthful. So at any rate, they located a couple of downed trees after that storm. So with that, I'm glad that they had the presence of mind to go back out and take a look and see, hey, are we going to have a problem if we have another incident sometime in the near future? So those things are being addressed right now. They did cut some of what they could themselves, but there's some other work that still needs to be done in that area. Month of October, 105 calls through the 21st, through the 26th of the month. We have another individual coming online or just started with us for San Rafael. He's a management analyst, and I'm going to be utilizing him for much of the same stuff that I've had in the way of getting data and information back to myself, such as this type of report, the monthly statistics. We also want to draw deeper into some other things. And so I'm going to have the benefit of that management analyst who has budgeting background, who has the data analytics background, and other key things that I think we'll be able to find a value in the way of community outreach, and also kind of just presenting graphs and information to make it simple and easy to understand. So I want to be able to share that with our personnel at Engine 58 as an example, just so they can see and understand and learn some things that haven't always been available to them in the way of just getting a snapshot of what's going on, how and why, so they have a better understanding and feel more informed. But with that, our average response time, 5 minutes, 49 seconds. I tell you, those numbers almost look the same every month. I got to say it again. So, but it's again a great testament to how quickly they're getting out. They're always sub 6 minutes. And that's, to me, that's phenomenal.
Maybe the data person can analyze this and let us know why.
You know what? I'm sure that's going to be the case. He's very analytical in that way. So I'm pretty sure he can. And maybe he's found that these are overtime. Maybe they're 5 minutes, 20 seconds on average. We'll see, huh? So with that, that concludes my report. And if there's any questions, I'm more than happy to speak to those.
Thanks, Chief. Anybody?
I'm like the question queen tonight. I have one. You mentioned the down trees, and maybe this also goes to Luke. Then does our maintenance crew go up and clear those, and then do they also drive along the road to make sure there's no other down trees?
I'm going to speak first, and then Luke can chime in, but I thought this would be something we would put more of a MWPA type effort towards. Since we have the personnel, we have the crews that are doing the type of work, it may be a natural thing to actually just have them come over and do that as one small little effort in conjunction with everything else they're doing. But that being said, let's say there was no NWPA. I would certainly now look at, what will we have in the way of public works or parks and rec staff that could come out and provide assistance.
I can't hear you. No, you're not muted. We just can't hear you.
I could.
No, I didn't hear him.
I couldn't.
No. Nope.
I don't know
Really?
how you're hearing him, Bill.
Bill's the Luke whisperer.
All right, who can lip read?
Can you guys hear me now?
There we go.
Am I good? Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry. So yeah, we get reports usually on if it's up in the fire roads. Usually we would get something from a hiker or a biker alerting us to a hazard or if as a trees come down over the path. We do monitor the open space, but not as regularly as people are out there doing their morning jogs and things. So we will go address something if we get a report. We do work closely with our fire department, and if they're better suited to get up there, or if sometimes we'll go up there together and tackle something that's on a fire road or something. So it kind of depends. We do it case by case, and we do keep in close communication with the fire crew, and whoever's best situated to go deal with it will work like that.
So maybe this is another option of giving it to the Fire Protection Agency too, like Chief White suggested, if time permits.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, we're a step ahead, and I can chime in on this a little bit. So in something like this, where we just need to clear the road in case there is an incident, obviously the fire risk isn't what we're too concerned about at this moment with all the rain that's happening. But you do have a lot of hikers, a lot of bikers, that we have a lot of medical assist calls that the fire department responds to up there. So it's a matter of clearing it to the type, to the degree where we can still get the utility truck or vehicles through there. But through the MWPA and actually through their core funding, through a very well-written application and request by Quinn Gardner, who's the emergency manager for San Rafael, is addressing all of the fire roads in what's known as the San Rafael zone, which is the zone that we're in, where they're going to be going through and pulling some vegetation back and making sure not only from a fire hazard standpoint, but just from an accessibility standpoint, so that all of that can be done properly. And that's actually going to be funded through the MWPA core funds directly. So they will be taking on that project and all of the associated work with it, which will be great. And that will certainly help. But in the meantime, trees come down and the MWPA isn't always able to react as quickly as we can to make sure that we still have access, because you certainly don't want to find a situation where somebody is down and we can't get emergency responders up there because there's a tree across the road, and that slows any sort of progress. So sometimes it's just a matter of us clearing it enough so that emergency vehicles can get through.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah.
I actually have a couple questions. One, Chief, when we were talking about the Lassen fire previously, we talked about, I want to say we talked about the middle school and it being an evacuate, like if we were to have the kids at school, so let's say the fire was in the middle of the day. And I think you mentioned that there was going to be discussion that was going to follow that. This gets me on the other side too, because I work at that middle school, and that was part of a meeting I was in, is what would happen if, and I was like, oh, well, I was at this meeting and I think there's going to be some discussion, on a countywide level. Is that continue? I mean, obviously it probably is, but do you have any timeline or any insight into how that's going to continue?
I need to follow up with Captain Papanicolaou. I was at the station last week, but Captain Brackett was there. I want to follow up with Captain Papanicolaou to find out first about the internal after action review and what came from that. And then usually after you do an internal one, you do the more expanded version.
Sure.
So my assumption is that something should be pending pretty soon. You don't want to let too much time elapse before you have that information is fresh in everyone's mind and those conversations take place. And so given that, there may already be something scheduled. I just don't know with certainty on that, but
Sure.
I can certainly loop back to you and find out.
Okay, that would be great. Thank you so much. And Eric, just
Absolutely.
kind of in that same vein, you mentioned that Marinwood doesn't own like that hillside that sort of comes by the parking lot of the middle school, that Marinwood doesn't own that. Is that owned by the school district then? I know there's a weird kind of property.
No,
division
we
on-
own portions of it. There's also portions of that hill that are owned. In fact, a large parcel is owned by the church at the top of Ellen Court.
Okay,
That comes down the backside almost the entire way to the creek. The school district does own part of that property. It's part of that same parcel, so it does get a little confusing. There's not necessarily
sure.
property boundary lines that
Right.
are up there. So I don't know if that answers your question, but
No,
tells
no,
you,
no,
yeah, there's multiple parties that own
Right.
a piece of that hill.
It does. I'm just, you know, in my unique situation, I'm just wondering how I can help, you know, make some, like, we're doing a great job, it seems like, in a lot of other parks, like where the open space, you know, I think what most of us consider the traditional open space going up into the hills, but that's like this one spot right in the middle that could
Do a
cause a
geoping,
problem.
right? Like pin yourself and then send Eric the coordinates, the
Oh,
latitude.
Eric
and
knows where I am all the time.
Yeah,
But no, I just wondered, like, because I know when we had that Lassen fire, some of the consideration from people on the eastern side of Las Colinas and those small neighborhoods that then butt up against what is now becoming a new residences, but there's also a lot of open space over there, was what happens if the embers blow from where they were in the Lassen fire, they find a home in that middle zone, right? And then it starts that fire right next to the school, which then would continue to blow to the other side, I think was the concern of some residents that I had heard. And I was just trying to sort out all the details.
Yeah, and the chief can speak to this a lot more intelligently than I can, but I can say that's also part of what is being analyzed and looked at through the Zone Haven platform that actually Chief White was very responsible towards bringing into this much larger countywide study, and looking at evacuation models and so on and so forth, scenarios, what could happen.
Right.
So I'm sure that there is more information coming on that, as well as people who are much more educated and trained than I am in looking at it, come up with various solutions. But keeping in mind, Chris, this is a countywide effort too. So
Oh, completely.
it'll take them time, but
Yeah, for
that
sure.
I believe that's all part of it.
Okay, cool. And I don't expect anybody to have the answers. I'm just raising the questions that come to me. My other question is a much easier one. Do we offer, I know for a while in the main parking lot at Marinwood, we had a sandbag station. I haven't like been by there in a couple of weeks. Do we have that? Is that somewhere else, or is there a plan to have it? Just knowing that we're expecting hopefully a lot more rain. And I do know that we had some, not street-wide flooding, but I know we had some people with issues in their yards and things like that.
Luke, you want that? Or you want me to run?
Yeah, no, I can answer that one. Yeah, we do plan on resuming offering sand and sandbags. We usually wait a little bit after the first rains, as we don't tend to see much flooding this early in the season, as the ground is, absorbing a lot of the water.
Right.
But we will be putting sand out in sandbags, a little later into the wet season, and we'll be announcing that and letting people know.
Okay. Do you anticipate, Luke, that would be in the same part of the parking lot then, just so I can kind of report back to a few people?
Yes, most likely.
Okay, makes sense. Thank you both very much. Thanks, Chief. Appreciate it.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and Chris, the other thing I would follow up on that is, directly from the Emergency Operations Center. If you go to the website, I believe it's emergency.marincounty.org. They actually have a list of locations. Right now, this early in the season, what they're primarily doing is pointing people towards retail locations,
Right.
where you can find those, because most of the agencies and cities and towns haven't set these up yet, typically don't till later. People who know that they have particular flooding issues is specific to their resident, if they go to this website, they can find, which places sell, where they can get this at a retail level, and they can be, and most of these are meant for at the agency level when you have widespread flooding and extreme rain.
Okay. Thank you all very much.
But the
Appreciate it.
information's there.
Cool. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions from the public?
Yeah, 1 second. Steve.
Hi, Chief. Welcome back. Sorry I missed you last month. So, and I know you were gone during the Lassen fire. I had requested a more detailed written report, and I'm glad we have part of that report available this month. But one of the, I think we have a opportunity to learn from what we did right and what we did wrong. To echo Chris's concerns regarding evacuations, I think the public was kind of caught off guard. We've been talking about disaster preparedness forever, but when the push comes to shove, half of us evacuated, half of us watched the fire. All of us realized that we weren't as prepared as we thought we could be. The radios did not go off and warn the residents. I got a text message saying that there was a fire on Mount Lassen, and my first response for a number of minutes was, "Oh, Northern California is having a bad fire. Isn't that bad?" My in-laws live up in that area. I had no idea that it was just a short distance from my house. So there was some communication issues. There was some people didn't know where to evacuate to. And I just think that we're missing out on a really great opportunity to help the public be prepared in the event of another emergency. From my knowledge, the last time we had an emergency, fire emergency this big was in the 1970s. That's 45 years ago. And where I guess that whole hill burnt up and came down near the houses. This was close. I think the fire department, especially CAL FIRE and all that equipment, made short work of this, and I'm grateful for it. I'm grateful for the leadership in the fire department, but I think we're not quite covering everything we could cover to protect life in our community, because that's, of course, that's our biggest concern, right? Not the building, but getting the people out of the way. So I would hope that there would be a more detailed report. Now, one other thing, several months ago, it was right before the 4th of July holiday, I learned from a news report in the paper that a half mile from our firehouse, a deer struck a motorcyclist, and the motorcyclist was killed. We never found out about who responded to it, what happened in that incident. We were promised some kind of follow-up on that, but we never received it. So I guess I'd like to learn from the good things that you do from our community chief, and have a little bit more detail so we all can be a little better prepared. That's really all I have to say. Thanks.
Thank you. I will offer that, much like is the case in many communities, there's always room for improvement for everyone in the way of preparedness. And you acknowledge that, not everyone was as prepared as they thought they were. And that's often the case, no matter which community you go to, that, people realize, oh, my go bag isn't quite what it should have been, or my rations that I've put aside are actually expired and need to be, discarded and replaced, or my water or my generator hasn't been, started. I don't have backup fuel. I mean, any number of things in the way of preparedness. When it comes to alerts and notifications, I would encourage you to sign up for Nixle. Just specifically look at getting information through your community, not necessarily signing up in other communities elsewhere, because if you made an assumption that you were receiving a text about some place in Northern California, that's kind of unlikely. In the event you haven't signed up in that community, you shouldn't be receiving notifications, in a distant location. So I would certainly pay close attention to anything I would receive in the way of communications, and ensure that it's not something that you should be paying close attention to within your own community or adjacent community. But know your zone. That's the new mantra from zonehaven.com. Know your zone. So if you have an opportunity, go and just check it out and see what they offer in the way of what zone are you in. And if there's information being pushed to the incident commander, or from the incident commander to the Office of Emergency Services, there will be information pushed out to the community through a variety of sources to ensure everyone knows that there's an evacuation warning or an evacuation order that could impact you and or your neighbors. And so with that, knowing your zone becomes very important, and it'll help you understand, generally which directions you can leave safely. Know your, excuse me, I've spoke to Zone Haven in the past, collaborating with Waze. That application provides you information that Zone Haven itself couldn't give you right at this point in time, but Waze will be able to tell you which direction to travel in, which is safe based on the situation. So I would go back and try to, review some information from Fire Safe Marin. They have really good information on that site, and also look at zonehaven.com so you can be a little more informed about, am I going east or west on Lucas Valley Road? Am I going to Las Gallinas, or am I, heading in a different direction altogether? There's the great thing about Marinwood is there's not a lot of place to get confused about which directions you may be able to go in and find some safe refuge or safe route of travel. But to that point, I will say that, as a fire service agency, there's always room for improvement, whether we openly admit that or not. We're all in a place of trying to learn more and trying to share information and or improve our circumstances as an agency, as first responders, and as a community. So your point's well taken. Thank you.
Thanks, Chief.
There is
anything
another,
else?
yeah, there is, Bill. 1 second, please. Michael. Michael, can you hear us?
Hello.
Okay. All right, Michael, you're up. If you're there, I don't show you as muted. Well, he might be having some technical difficulties, so hopefully we can get back to him.
Hmm.
Okay.
Maybe he can put something in the chat to let you know.
Yeah, we don't have a
Oh,
chat.
that's right. I forgot. Because we have nobody to monitor it.
Okay, well,
I guess not.
yeah, I can try him one more time. 1 second here.
While we're waiting, maybe I'll open another can of worms. What
Great.
about the fire that happened on the other side of the ridge? Do we know what started that?
Michael Bennett. Oh, he just
It
sent me
was
a
like-
note, said his computer crashed. So
Oh.
hopefully we get him back.
So it was
There's
like
two
the
of them
week.
now.
What?
There's 2 Michaels now.
Let me try this one. 1 second. Michael, are you there?
Hi, sorry about that.
Okay.
Welcome.
So I just had a comment on the like test along Queenstone and the times that it would take to get to the points, kind of further further east or further west. I was wondering if like a similar test had been done, like going through Louise Fire Road. It seems like that would be a faster access point, even if it's not necessarily on Marinwood's property. But it would just be interesting to get a comparison if the Marinwood engine would be called over there. That's it.
Okay.
I would offer that perhaps, depending on where the fire is located, we wouldn't want to eliminate any option. But given the location of this fire, I think we certainly use the most expedited route of travel. From what I can tell by the map, the Louise Fire Road is quite a bit of ways away and would have led to a substantial delay. Now, given, let's say the units were already out at some far west remote location, and maybe they thought maybe this is going to be a quick route of travel or access for them, I could see them maybe considering it at that point. But one of the things we want to do is we want to anchor a fire. And traveling that road would actually put us probably at the head of the fire or on a flank of the fire, as opposed to at a point where we would figure we could anchor and move forward to both get a left and or a right flank established to contain the fire. So while Luis might be a good road for another incident, I would say that given its distance away from the incident, wouldn't necessarily want to consider that as a route unless there were some other units that were already traveling in the area and we just told them to take this road to help provide a supplement on the left flank or at the head or something like that.
Yeah, and Chief, I also don't want to speak entirely out of line because I'm not entirely sure I'm correct here, but I don't know that Louise Fire Road is actually capable for apparatus beyond, utility trucks and basic four-wheel drives. I'm not sure that it's maintained well enough to move apparatus such as a Type 3 up there, up the road. So, and I know that's a county maintained fire road too. And I think a lot of these that, are still called fire roads aren't necessarily active fire roads anymore, with Queenstone and then Big Rock being kind of the primary entrances to that area, as well as I believe there's some entrances on the Novato side as well.
Can I just add that I think in our meeting, we also mentioned how sometimes steep they are too. So
Yeah.
incline may not look as steep on a map.
Right. Yeah, and I can follow up with our fire engineers as well and see if I can get some better intel on that one for future.
And then can I just add one more thing for Luke? I found out where Creekside Drive is. Just want to point that out. Thanks. I'm done.
Any other comments from the public?
Nope.
Chief, I really appreciate it. Thank you very much again.
Thank you. It was my pleasure. Everyone have a great night and stay safe and warm.
You got
Thank
it.
you. And
Good
don't
night,
forget to
and
call the
Chief.
pediatrician.
I
Yeah,
will. I
like
intend to.
seriously though, because I didn't even bother trying to get any appointments. I just called the pediatrician's office. We're going on Thursday.
Oh,
So
that's
some
great.
pediatrician offices are getting the vaccine and some are sending you off to the big vaccination, but there are walk-ins, but at the end of the day.
Oh, I see. Well, end of the day actually works for me if I can pull it off tomorrow, but we'll see. So thank you again for that. I appreciate it. And good night to all.
Thank you.
All right.
Alrighty.
Thank you, Chief. We'll talk soon.
Absolutely. Thanks.
On to Park and Recreation matters. Draft minutes of the Park and Recreation we're going to review.
Yeah, and in the same notion that Kathleen did, Lisa Ruggieri is the liaison for the board to the Park and Rec Commission. So I'm gonna put it over to her if she can just kind of recap briefly.
Okay.
Sure. Thank you, Eric.
Thank you.
So I thought this was a great meeting. And just one of the main items of note, which came out of this meeting, was the Marinwood Play Structure Replacement Project. We reviewed a draft of a community survey. Commissioner Fine had presented the commission with this preliminary survey to ultimately be shared with the community to socialize the upcoming adjustments to the play structure and to garner feedback surrounding items of priority. The survey is structured to gather both qualitative and quantitative results. We discussed ways in which the survey's existence could be socialized, specifically perhaps on the billboard going down Lucas Valley Road, of course, with signage as well along the play structure, so that the community is aware that the survey exists and can enter their feedback into it. And there was also discussion of the inclusion of demographic data to the survey to further ensure transparency with regard to which age groups would prefer which components. As an example, a family with a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old may seek a different elements than a family with an 8-year-old and a 10-year-old. So, kind of looking for a way to potentially include that, so we can have that stratification. And once that survey comes out, it should provide some really interesting data points as we're looking at how we're going to be augmenting the play structures as we move forward. That was the main takeaway from me, just as far as agenda items that are listed here. And then, of course, we've discussed this prior in this board meeting tonight. Erica informed the commission about the preliminary trail feasibility study and kind of how that's not quite underway, but we're making traction towards getting that to be underway. So that's all I've got. I mean, I don't know if Luke, Eric, there's anything that I missed that you would like to fill in.
No, I think the survey was the primary discussion point for that day. So that was good. Thank you.
Sure.
And where are we with the funding for that? Right, we were getting a grant. Did
Yep.
we get?
Yeah, same place that we always were.
Okay.
Yeah, we've all that's rolling as well.
Was there, how do we usually get the surveys out? I mean, you mentioned some signage, Lisa, but I was just curious traditionally how that gets rolled out, just so we can get a huge response.
Right. So it's a survey. It's through SurveyMonkey. And so my understanding is some member at the Marinwood Community Center, we can sort of blast it out to that population. And then for those that aren't in that database, and someone correct me if I'm incorrect here, for those that aren't in that database, we can socialize via signage and our social media outlets as well.
Great.
Yeah, you kind of froze up on us a little bit there for a
Right,
second.
no, I
Lisa,
think
or maybe
I
it's
got the
just my
gist of
end,
it for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
this for me, this jumps to mind, like, creating a QR code and having, even like little lawn signs near some of the focal points, like by the tennis courts, by the actual play structure itself, by the mini park, where people who are actively playing in that park could be like, bang, hit that QR code and, respond right there would seem to be a good way to do it as well.
Yeah.
all of those ideas were
QR codes were brought up. Yes.
Perfect.
We're all on the same page.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other comments? Questions? Public?
Yeah, 1 second. Steven.
Yes, thanks, Lisa, for your report. And, I'm going to make the same comment I did with the fire department or fire commission. Why aren't we recording these meetings? It's really easy to do. This is a public agency, and I don't see anything that people are doing wrong. It's just that it gives context to what is being said and the concerns of our commissioners. Having people serve and talk among themselves is not really public representation. That's ruling by basically decree. And I think we can do better than that. I think the parks are, to me, my favorite part of Marinwood CSD. And I would really like other people to know the issues of concern with the Parks Department. And I did want to say something. Unfortunately, I did not have a chance to respond to Chief White. He missed my point entirely. I wasn't really critiquing the fire department. My point was that we really should try to learn as much as we can from the Mount Lassen fire and improve our communications, improve our preparedness in the community. I think that is really ultimately what we want to do. I think he took defensive. He was defensive, but he shouldn't have been. When I made the comment about fire on Mount Lassen, well, that was a communication issue. If the announcement had gone on, fire on Mount Lassen Court in, Marinwood, Lucas Valley, that would immediately have alerted me and maybe other people who might have been confused by the first message. So items like that, if you don't capture some of these issues that we had, they're just kind of lost to posterity. I think we want to be prepared next time. Let's not be in the same situation that Napa and Sonoma was a few years ago. It could easily happen here. Let's hope not. But anyhow, thank you very much for the report, Lisa.
Thank you, Stephen. On to an appointment of Park and Rec commissioners.
Yeah, the same process as for the fire commission. These are all for 2-year terms, all beginning on January 1st. We have 2 current commissioners who are seeking reappointment in John Campo and Ian Fine. And then we have a new member of the community, Michael Benesh, who actually spoke earlier in the meeting, who is also seeking appointment. And he kind of found us and found the commission before I even started putting out any announcements. And he's actually paid attention to the last couple of meetings and joined and participated is what I mean. So my recommendation, Michael Benesh, and my apologies if I'm not pronouncing that.
Eric, you're going in and out.
Sorry, probably because I'm looking away. My recommendation is to appoint Michael Benesh, Ian Fine, and John Campo to seats for 2-year terms expiring December 2023.
Great. Can I get a motion?
I motion to appoint Michael Benesh and to reappoint Ian Fine and John Campo to the regular seats on the Park and Recreation Commission for a 2-year term expiring December 2023, and to leave the alternate commissioner seat vacant.
Second that.
Yay. Any comments?
Yeah, 1 second. I'm gonna pull my Michael.
I just wanted to say I'm looking forward to working with everyone and serving our community.
And we look forward to having you.
Thanks. Thanks for offering.
For clarification, am I pronouncing your last name correctly, Michael? Is it Benesh?
Benesh.
Benesh, got it.
Benesh.
My apologies. Thank you. I have one of those names that nobody can ever pronounce correctly upon first seeing it either. So don't take it personally, please.
Oh yeah, I'm used to it. No worries.
Thank you, sir.
I'll just say, hey, Michael, so appreciate you stepping into the ring and also just giving us a really nice rundown of who you are and your interest in your letter. It was fantastic. It was nice to read that over before meeting you tonight. So thank you very much.
Right. Then you have another comment as well, Bill.
Okay.
1 second, please. Steve.
Yeah, I just wanted to say I'm real excited about Michael being on the commission. The Jewish Community Center is, I think, a wonderful, wonderful program. So I'm hoping that he can lend perspective and lessons learned from the Jewish Community Center for our rec department, especially in the area of marketing. I think it's just a wonderful thing. Now we've got John Campo. We've got some really good people on our Parks and Rec Commission, and hopefully we can make beautiful things happen. More beautiful things happen. Thanks.
Thank you, Stephen. Tiffany, can we get a vote?
Saying Board President
Please.
Shea,
Aye.
Director Case,
Aye.
Director Kilkenny,
Aye.
Director Oyserman,
Aye.
Director Ruggieri.
Aye.
Thanks.
Thank you all. Awesome. On to the Park and Rec Maintenance Activity Report. That would bring Luke into the picture, I believe.
Thank you, Bill. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Yep, great. So this last month, the recreation staff has been working, planning our upcoming events, classes and programs for the winter and spring and even the summer. Um, Believe it or not, we talk about our summer season all year round, and it's a big part of our year is working out what we're going to do next year, analyzing what went well and what we need to improve on from the previous year. So that's a constant conversation, and there's been lots of plans being made. We just had our fall art show took place on Saturday, and that was our first in-person art show we've been able to have since 2019 due to fires and then due to COVID. And it was wonderful to be back having a community event at the community center again. And it was a great show. Susan Press once again organized the show, and it was a lot of beautiful and interesting artwork from a lot of Marin's finest and veteran artists. And it was our most well-attended art show that we've had so far. We've been having art shows here in Marinwood for the last 9 years, and this is by far our best turnout. And so I think people were excited to just get out of the house and come to something, a community event, but also the show has grown in popularity each time we've done it. So that was a really nice event and went really well. And so we're excited about that. Our next special event will be, we're not going to be putting on our traditional Winterfest open house kids event. We're going to try to do something a little bit more COVID friendly this year, and we're going to be hoping to hold an outdoor sort of winter concert, weather permitting, and we've got a lot of plans we're making for that. We will still be offering the photos with Santa, and we'll have some kids activities, and we're working right now on our contingency plan if it's raining. So, but that'll be a really fun event, and we've got some great things in store.
Is it
which
going to
we'll be
be like a
announcing.
cross between the Winterfest and Music in the Park?
I'm not going to call it that, but it'll have elements of both of those things. For sure.
Yay!
So we'll be announcing some of the details pretty soon. We're just finalizing some things this week and next week, but we're really excited to kind of do something new, both to try to keep people safe and just to kind of change it up a little bit. So those plans are underway. We'll be offering winter break camp again during the school break, which we're looking forward to, and staff continue on to oversee, to market, and manage our offering of recreation classes that we're currently doing. So that's been going great. The other thing I wanted to discuss on the recreation side, I did include finally got our summer numbers compiled to show you, and I did include a spreadsheet showing our totals for the pool season revenue and expenditures, as well as our summer camp revenue expenditures. And that's on the last page of the, oh yeah, Eric's got the report up on the screen now. Thank you, Eric. And typically for this report, we usually look at the year prior and the most recent season to kind of give, just kind of see where we're at in comparison. But the year prior was very strange and unique due to all of the COVID restrictions and all of our things being very limited. So I didn't think that gave us much context. It didn't make sense to just show you 2020 and 2021. So I decided to add in a couple prior years so you could see like 2018 and 2019 were more typical Marinwood summers or pool seasons and summer programs. And so you can kind of see kind of the trend for what we were dealing with the COVID very severely restricted summer in 2020, as well as us moving a little bit closer to a normal season this year. So overall, we actually ended up running larger and more programs than we initially planned for and budgeted for. Going into the planning season, we thought things were going to be much more limited, and they were much more limited in terms of the health guidance that we were following. And as summer approached, a lot of things were relaxed, and we had the ability to increase our enrollment for camps, increase our programming at the pool. And so we ended up doing that as quickly and to the best of our abilities. So looking down, if I could just go down to the summer camps, I'll start there. just that's a little bit more digestible, but just a couple notes. I'm not going to walk through this whole spreadsheet. If you guys have questions about different line items, I'd be happy to answer those. But I'll just say that our summer camp this summer of 2021, we were operating at about 60% of the enrollment that we were taking in 2019, and so staffing was similarly decreased because of that, but it's not an exact apples to apples for that. In 2020, we were limited by health guidelines, and we were limited to about 30% of our summer camp enrollment. And we were maxed out for all of the camps and all the weeks what we were allowed to take, and the number of camps that we typically offer. But we were able to increase that this summer, so that's kind of just giving you a little bit of sense of the change in the numbers there. And then with the pool season, you can see the middle turquoise section of this spreadsheet is looking at aquatics revenue and expenditures, and that's the programs that we run, such as swim lessons, lifeguard training, and our guards and training camp. That all goes into the aquatics line. And as you can see, in 2020, we weren't really able to run much of anything in that category. And this year we were able to start offering a lot more swim lessons, but we kept things private, and our programs were all smaller than they would run in a normal season. But then moving on up to our pool revenue, which is basically our lap swim and our recreation swim attendance. We actually had quite a lot of reservations for those programs this year, and things were actually, we pretty much maxed out what we were allowed to do at the pool this year as best we could, utilizing the pool at all times of the day for all of our different programs. So this is sort of just a snapshot that we use internally to kind of track how things are going year to year, and for us to use. But I feel like I share that with you guys just to sort of show you where we're at for a summer season. The fact that the budget year, the fiscal year, kind of straddles the middle of our summer season a little bit, it can be tricky to kind of make sense of it. So we use a couple different things to try to look at summer as a whole, and this is one of those tools we use. So if anyone has any questions about this before I get into the parks and maintenance section, I'd be happy to answer those.
I have one, of course, tonight. For the camp lunch reimbursement, is that the lunches for Marinwood?
So we offer the option for camp parents to purchase lunches online that from Marinwood Market, and they get delivered, or we pick them up and distribute them to the campers. So it's just like a service that we provide. And the online company that we use to facilitate that, the parents pay directly through online, and then they pay us a cut for utilizing their service. And so that number in the camp lunch reimbursement is the money we're getting from the company, is like our percentage that we get back when all that's processed.
Oh, okay.
And then you said it was at 60%, but we also increased, I believe, the cost for more. So even though that number bumped all the way back up, we may not, well, hopefully we'll get back to the 2019 numbers this coming year, but we'll see, right? Because the prices
I can't predict exactly what attendance is going to look like going into 2022. But yeah, we'll have a better idea when we kind of get closer to when we open up the camp registration, how many camps we're going to be offering, and sort of the details.
If
on
we're going to be able to do like the specialty ones, and do we have to do 2 weeks or 1 week sessions?
Exactly. Yeah. So I can't speak to exactly what the next summer is going to look like yet. We're still working out a lot of those details, but in the coming months we'll be able to make some of those announcements.
I'm just trying to see where you're going. Do you know what I mean? Sorry.
Yeah, for sure.
Anybody else?
Looks really good though.
In terms of the Sivan's question, yeah, I mean, we do expect that we would be looking at revenue and attendance much closer to the 2018, 2019 numbers than the last two going into next summer. So.
But it looks really good, especially considering how limited it was last year and how unsure it was going in this year. You guys did an amazing job. Thank you. Thank you for keeping costs down and also making it unbelievably fun for the kids.
Well, thank you. Yeah, and I want to thank Robin and John Paul and Carolyn for all of their amazing hard work and helping us, pivot to be able to adapt as guidelines changed, and we're able to, increase programs and offer things that we hadn't, been planning to offer necessarily, and we were able to kind of get things going pretty quickly, which they worked really hard to make that happen, and I'm really happy about that. So big thanks to them.
Cool.
Anything else on the summer numbers before I move on? Great. Well, on the parks maintenance side of things, the storms have definitely been a big part of the routine lately. So we have a lot of storm drains, culverts, and V ditches throughout the district that staff monitors closely when we have a lot of rainfall. A lot of these are old. A lot of them do end up getting clogged up at times, and we try to keep those clear and watch for anything that's overflowing or flooding. They also keep a close eye on the creek, watching out for debris that's come down and gotten stuck and maybe be posing a threat for causing a dam or causing flooding. And we clear things as needed, as well as keeping an eye on the buildings, the roof, and other areas of the community center to make sure things are okay. So they make their rounds every day, checking everything out, and we walk the creek fairly often, just keeping an eye on how everything's going. Everything's flowing great right now. I think that the rush of water that we got in that huge storm initially washed pretty much everything out of the creek that if we'd had a slower start to the rainy season, things might have built up on our end of things, but it just kind of took it all away, and the creek is flowing great right now. And we haven't had too much to deal with. We have had to remove some fallen trees and a few areas where things were building up, but so far so good. So we're hoping that continues to be the case this rainy season. The staff's also been working. They were helping get things cleaned up and prepared for the art show. And we'll have some changes we're making to the grounds in preparation for this winter concert that we'll be hosting, among other things. And I just want to say that, oops, did you guys lose me, or am I still here? Okay, there we go. Staff have been very excited to see the progress at the the new parks maintenance facility. It's been great. Our little makeshift work area is just down the driveway a bit from that shop, and it's just been fantastic and exciting to see things rising and the walls coming up and the roof going on. And I know the crew is just really looking forward to moving in and having a much better workspace. So they're ecstatic at this point. So that's been a nice thing to be able to kind of see that progress each day as we're going over there. And at this point, I'd be happy to take any questions. Yes, Siobhan.
Anybody?
So I don't count today, Bill.
I said anybody.
So you said that everything's flowing well. Do we have any more issue with erosion? Because it was such a
yes.
quick thing. And then with the pool, the top pool, how is that spot that was having erosion issues last year?
Yeah, I can speak to that. The creek continues to do what it does, and it is the areas that are bereft of tree roots and trees holding the bank. There are the areas that have just loose soil continue to get slowly eaten away, and there are a couple of areas that we continue to monitor closely that are close to some of our buildings and some in our park that we've had we lost some earth in previous seasons. So that is continuing. We haven't had any major incidents, but it's definitely something that we're keeping an eye on. And the area by the top pool is holding. It hasn't gotten worse, but the season's pretty early, so we are monitoring things closely, and we have been doing a lot of planning and research for going into this next year. Mid-February is about the time when it's most appropriate and to do I guess, erosion abatement plantings and addressing that. So we've got plans to kind of hit these areas full on with a few different approaches come the new year. And so, but in the meantime, there's not much we can do for that stuff while the creek is flowing so heavily. Anything we do now would just wash away. So we're mostly just monitoring and crossing our fingers for some of those things. And then we'll be addressing a lot of that very seriously in the new year.
Thanks.
Luke, do you know, does San Rafael, I'm assuming it's the city of San Rafael, but I don't, maybe it's Marin County, the part of the creek that is just south of us, like literally on the other side of Lucas Valley Road. I happen to walk that, a few times in the last couple of weeks and notice there's a lot of natural and non-natural debris that if it's not cleared by them, it's obviously going to end up in our end. Do you ever have any communication with them or?
Yeah, I mean, stuff does. Yeah, I mean, I know what you're talking about, like on the other side of Lucas Valley from the community center.
Yeah,
kind of
yeah,
like over there.
exactly.
Yeah. No, I mean, we do hear from the county and from San Rafael from time to time about various things, but everyone sort of keeps track of their own property, I would say,
Right.
for the most part. And things just sort of, if something gets caught up on our end, we address it. And if it makes it through down to some, it just kind of, we sort of can only keep track of so much of the creek. And we have a lot of creek on our property.
Right.
So, but yeah, I know what you're talking about. And that area hasn't posed an issue for anything on our end so
Okay.
far.
Okay. And I will report out that the oleander that I was asking about next to the tennis courts closest to Miller Creek Middle School got completely taken down by the Miller Creek School District staff. And we have a brand new maintenance person. I don't know if you guys have any interest in meeting that we have a brand new head of maintenance that obviously, since we have that piece of property that kind of is the tweener property, if you guys want me to create a digital introduction, I'd be happy to do so.
Oh yeah, that'd be great. We would love that.
Yeah.
You're talking about the oleander on the against the tennis court, like fences?
Yes.
Oh yeah, no, our guys did that.
Oh, they did?
Yeah, that was us. That happened this week with.
Oh, that's hilarious, because I had just I was told to put in a work order that was Miller Creek School District.
Yeah, I mean, it's on school property. The tennis courts we maintain, and
Right.
And so it's one of those things where it's sort of a shared sort of situation. But yeah, we dealt with that one.
Perfect. Hey, tell the guys they did a great job.
Yeah, we still need to remove the cuttings once they dry up a little bit, but we'll
Right.
get those out of there soon. But
Perfect.
yeah.
I'm sure that the new maintenance guy is still amazing, Chris. I'm sure he's
I don't think it had anything to do with him as much as it had to do with, I thought it was our guys on the other side. All right.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to rattle a cage over there.
Yeah,
and
things
it's,
don't move that quickly on the Miller Creek campuses.
It's
So
yeah, it's on their side. Well, and I just our staff has always had a really great relationship with the schools, the Miller Creek's maintenance department, and there's some great camaraderie there and shared resources. And I've been very impressed. Just the relationship's been very good since I can tell. So I'm sure that'll continue with the new director. I'll be excited to meet that person.
And I will say I'm kind of friendly with the maintenance guys on our side, and they say the same thing about Marinwood. They're always really impressed and happy to work with you guys.
Oh, that's good to hear.
I just want to add that I love the new grass. I know you guys call it turf. I call it grass, whatever. Right around the tennis courts, but the one or the closest one to the tennis courts, when is that coming down? Or are you guys keeping it up until the shed moves?
No, that will come down. That was an area that was a lot of that is completely brand new seed, and a lot of it is very young and just taking off. And this is a time of year when that grass is very vulnerable to getting chopped up with dogs and foot traffic and the track team and everything. So we're trying to give it a little bit more time to really take hold, since so much of that side was completely bald, and so it's a lot of brand new sprouts coming up that aren't as robust. So hopefully soon, but we don't want to undo all the work that just went into it by having that get all churned up in the mud. So it will come down soon, I promise.
Oh, I'm not in a rush, but thank you.
don't jump the fence and roll in the mud.
But it's so nice and fluffy.
Any other comments from the public?
Yeah, 1 second, Bill. Steve,
Gosh, I wish I could have had two shots at this like the directors, but I'll be quick. I have two comments, one on the revenue and something else on health and safety. First, on the revenue, I don't have anything specific on the revenue except to say that there's not enough information here to evaluate what's going on. We need attendance numbers. We also need to understand how many residents and versus non-residents who are utilizing our services. I'm a bit concerned that we're looking at the numbers and we're forgetting the fact that like for the lap swimmers, for example, we increased the cost for lap swimming 2,000%. That was, you know, so the revenue is there, but you know, who's paying that revenue? Is it outsiders? Is it residents? Why do we care about residents? Well, we're subsidizing the CSD. We're subsidizing the salaries and everything else. And so we do have a right to get a return on our investment. With regards to health and safety, this is an ongoing concern. It's been discussed before. It's a little embarrassing, but we've got a drinking and peeing problem in the park, and we had talked about this several months ago. The guys like to drink at the horseshoe pits and really create basically it's a frat party every Friday night and sometimes during the week, and there are no bathrooms. So they're going to the bathroom in the creek. They're really, I think, not behaving like responsible men. And something needs to be done about it. You need to step up. I know a couple of directors are down there regularly. I don't see them doing anything bad. But we need to be leaders in our community, and we also need to be responsible, and we need to follow the law. There is no drinking in the park by our, I think, by county standards, and yet we're turning a blind eye to it. So I don't want to be a blue nose. I don't mind people having a beer, but it's really gotten out of hand. And at the very least, very least, we need to make toilets available so guys aren't peeing in the bushes. It's gross, actually, and it really does impact some of our more sensitive members of the community who will not walk past there on a Friday night or when it really gets rocking and rolling over there. So let's not spend our time thinking about how the soccer players from the canal come up and they drink their Modelo's and call them a problem when we have a problem of our own. I don't know what your plan is to address it, but you really do need to address it, and
Thank you,
please do
Stephen.
that. And I would like to hear, since I brought this up before, I'd like to hear what kind of response you have to this concern.
Thank you, Stephen. Anybody else, Eric?
No.
Can I ask a quick question? Are the porta potties still by the tennis courts?
There is a porta potty.
Okay, so there are restrooms by the horseshoe pit.
No, they're
Ish.
horseshoe, but the porta potty is on the other side of the creek, on the other side of the tennis courts.
So, but it's not that far to walk, right?
Maybe for some people.
I'm just putting it out there that there is a restroom closer than the community center. So we are providing a restroom that is close-ish, maybe not right at the horseshoe pit, but yes, peeing in the park is not a good idea.
Well, I would also want to add that we also don't monitor our rental, the people who come and rent the one section right outside the pool gate, or other people who barbecue or decide to set up shop. So why would we monitor and regulate the horseshoe pit if we're not going to regulate everybody? And that's not my position on the board, so that's not what I'm here for. Sorry. I have other tasks to handle.
I think the only thing I'd like to address from Stephen's comments, and maybe this happened before I joined the board, but Stephen, I have to say I take offense to you saying that we're saying that we have trouble with a certain section of our population. You referenced soccer players drinking Modelo's. I think that's totally out of line. If that happened before I was on the board, then I would call the commissioners out on that. But certainly that has not happened since I've been on the board. And I think it's not a great position for any of us to be pointing out one group that I don't think needs to be pointed out at all. We could, you're also not supposed to have your dog off leash in certain parts of the park. And there's definitely dogs off leash in those parts of the park as well.
Thank you all. Any other comments from y'all? Okay, board member items of interest, requests for future agenda items.
I would actually be really interested in asking the Park and Rec department. There is that space that we always refer to as the fireman's picnic area. That is just, if you're walking the maintenance path heading east.
I think everybody knows what that is.
Okay, yeah. I don't know what it's officially called. I just know
That's
that.
always what it's been referred to
Okay.
as.
There's a bunch of picnic tables in there. I don't know, like, I'm just questioning the, like, I would be interested to have the Parks and Rec department, since that seems to be their role, to look at that and to see how well that's being utilized. If, like, I think the old barbecue is still in place there. There's an old drinking fountain. I don't know if it works. Seems like we've got some things that still exist there that maybe we don't want there anymore. And then I question, like, there's a pretty large number of picnic tables in there. Is that the best use of those picnic tables, or could they be outsourced to other parts of our parks and open space? So just asking maybe the Park and Rec Commission to take a look at that.
That's interesting, Chris, because do we even rent those picnic tables out like we do around the pool and the park?
I guess that would be
No.
my question. I don't.
They are available for rental, but you need to bring a porta potty. Right, Eric? Like, I think that's in the rental
Wait,
agreement.
but they are.
Like,
I
I'm sorry. It's, yes.
Can-
those are-
Can I just add that the tables are used? Like, there's people who do park on Quietwood and walk, and they, have a picnic there. Or I know that Stephen has posted, that a small group gets together and they play music in there. So
Sure.
it's definitely, that space is definitely utilized sometimes. I think that maybe I agree, having the maintenance crew look at the barbecue, or seeing if there's another way to revamp it, so then it is more inviting so people can use it. Because it is great to use during the summer when it's in the shade.
Right. Yeah. And I'm not making a judgment on it. I'm just saying we have a space there that seems to have some things that maybe are not utilized anymore, that I don't know if it makes sense to remove them, or no judgments. I'm just asking P&R to take a look at it.
Well, and Luke is trying to say something, right?
Oh, I would just, yes, I would be, I'd be more than happy to give either the commission or the board, or whatever you guys would deem appropriate, just a little bit of a background on that area, what our maintenance level is, what the usage is, and sort of what the current status of that area is. So I probably can answer a lot of these questions, but we don't need to do that now, but I'd be happy to do that in whatever.
Maybe that's next time. What do you think, Chris?
My understanding is, don't we have to direct Park and Rec to do that, and then they report back to us? No.
I think
You
I
don't
mean,
have,
we could, but
Item, then we would direct Park and park and maintenance or park and the
Right.
commissioners. But I think with Luke just giving us detail, then we would have the action of, oh, what about blah, 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 blah. And then it would go to Lisa.
Okay.
And-
So I guess what I'm asking for
Is an update.
is an updated view of that. And are we using, like, what are some,
What's our goal?
yeah. What, like, how are we utilizing
How
that?
do-
How could we be better utilizing it? And are there things there, like, again, coming at it from the standpoint of a middle school teacher, where a lot of the middle school kids hang out over there? Are there things over there that we don't necessarily need anymore that we could be removing that would make it a more natural space that would be more enjoyable?
And I do think about 4 years ago, they refurbished those picnic tables, right, Luke? I feel like when we were going around refurbishing all the picnic tables a couple years ago, they did those too.
I mean, there's stuff being done out
Yeah.
there, you know, periodically. So I mean, as needed. So we've done a lot of work out there over the years.
So for next month, it's obviously not a rush. I'm just trying to add some stuff to the agenda.
Yeah.
You filled the big bike hole that you used to ride down and ride back up. So,
Anybody else?
nope.
How about from the public?
Before we go there, Bill, the one thing I will say is December is typically the month when we designate when the board nominates and designates board president and board vice president for the upcoming calendar year. So that takes effect starting in January. So that'll go on to the board agenda for next month as well.
Okay.
Change when it's
Okay, you ready for public now?
Might as well.
Okay, 1 second.
Hi, first of all, I want to address Chris's comment. The first thing about the Modelo, the soccer players who drink Modelo, that's actually a direct quote. I'm embarrassed and offended by it too. I was at the time. You know, I bring that up. I just think that the whole idea here, Chris, is to raise our level of community awareness and the standards by which we live by. And, you know, getting drunk and peeing in the bushes, we can fix this. This is not a big deal. It's called a porta potty. Now, with regards to the Quietwood, the park there, the grove of trees, it is a wonderful place. And I guess you're unaware, we did take out the big barbecue pit that they had for a number of years where people would build bonfires, but pretty much all that exists there are, you know, small grills now and picnic tables, and they do get filled up. You do see big parties. As Kathleen mentioned, I have a music group. You know, during this era of COVID, we don't have the indoor public spaces that we have. So that is actually a very important area to have for the public to enjoy. I walk past there every day, a couple times a day, and every time I walk past there, there's a group of people in there. It's maybe not a picnic spot, but it's a gathering spot. I certainly have some ideas of how it could be improved, but to take what is a utilized facility, recreational facility out would really be a tragedy and a loss to our community. We have had on Quietwood, our block parties used to happen in there. They'll probably happen again in the future. It's a really nice spot, and it's a spot that if you live in Marinwood, you know, not too many people who don't live in Marinwood know about it. So, you know, let's not only keep it, but maybe think about improving it. There's a lot of things we could do, and yes, we could rent it out. People have had weddings back there. we can talk about some ideas that I've had, but let's go forward. Let's make this a better park, not a worse park.
Thank you, Stephen. If there's nothing else, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
President Shea,
Aye.
Director Case,
Aye.
Director Kilkenny,
Aye.
Director Oyserman,
Aye.
Director Ruggieri.
Aye.
Next board meeting is December 14th,
Yay.
next month. Have a great Thanksgiving, everyone.
Happy
all.
Thanksgiving and happy
Thanksgiving.
Hanukkah to those
Thanks,
who
everyone.
celebrate.